The people you love can hurt you the most. The day they locked me out of my own home, that was the day everything changed. I never saw it coming. My own family turned against me. If you've been betrayed by those closest to you, comment 1 so I know I'm not alone. Like this video if you've ever felt invisible inside your own home. Subscribe if you believe even broken families can heal. My name is Bianca. Not long ago, I thought family was forever. We weren't perfect, but we were close until the day my parents died and left behind an inheritance that tore us apart. The house, the farmland, the savings, everything was supposed to keep us together. Instead, it pushed us further apart than I ever imagined possible. The will was read in a cold, silent room. Eric, my older brother, got the house, the place where we grew up and shared memories. Lisa, my little sister, was awarded the farmland, the same land our grandmother loved. And me? I was left with money and papers, cold, empty things I couldn't hug or call home. I told myself it was fair, just business. But fairness disappears when family fractures. The very next day, Eric changed the locks. No warning, no explanation. The home where I once felt safe became a fortress and I was the enemy. Lisa shut me out too. No calls, no texts, just silence. The sister who once shared secrets with me was gone, replaced by a wall thicker than any brick. Family dinners stopped. Empty chairs replaced laughter. The warmth I once knew was gone. I begged for a chance to fix it. Messages, calls, pleas. But silence was louder than any fight. One night, alone in that empty house, I held a faded photo of us as kids, carefree, happy, whole. And I realized the family I loved was gone. Maybe you felt that too. When home no longer feels like home. When the people you trusted most become strangers. The pain isn't always loud. It's the quiet absence of love, the cold shoulder you never saw coming. But even in the darkest moments, I held on to hope. Hope that love could survive. Hope that forgiveness could heal wounds too deep for words. Then came the callow phone call that forced me to face the hardest truth. Sometimes the greatest battles aren't over money or land. They're over whether family can find its way back from the edge. What happened next? It changed everything. Stay with me. This story has only just begun. The morning after Eric changed the locks, I stood on the porch of the house that held every dream I ever had. The key that once opened every door was now a stranger, to me a silent symbol of the distance growing between us. My trembling hand traced the familiar wood grain, but the lock was unyielding. It was as if the house itself had turned its back on me. Inside, laughter echoed faintly, my family celebrating moving on without me. Memories of shared dinners and whispered secrets mocked me like ghosts. I called Eric again and again. No answer. Lisa's silence was colder calls unanswered. Texts ignored, a chasm growing wider by the day. I wasn't just ignored, I was erased. Days turned into weeks. Each moment of silence cut deeper than the last. When I finally arranged a family meeting, hoping for a chance to explain, Eric's eyes were cold and hard. "Bianca," he said, voice heavy with resentment, "this isn't personal. It's business. You should be grateful we're giving you anything." Grateful. The word echoed in my mind like a slap I couldn't shake. I looked at Lisa, searching for a flicker of understanding, but she avoided my gaze. The sister who once confided in me was gone, replaced by a wall thicker than any brick. That night, in my tiny apartment, I stared at a faded photo of us as kids, laughing, innocent, unbroken. The family I knew felt like a distant dream, slipping through my fingers like smoke. Loneliness wrapped around me like a cold winter night. I felt the sharp sting of betrayal deeper than any wound. I lay awake in the dark, heart pounding, haunted by the silence that used to be love. How did those I trusted most become strangers? How could a lifetime of memories be wiped away with a turn of a key? The pain was overwhelming. Sometimes I wanted to scream. Sometimes I wanted to disappear. But inside, a stubborn Ember Boneda quiet voice whispered, "You are more than what they say. You are not invisible." I wasn't fighting for a house or money. I was fighting for my identity, for my dignity, for the sister, the daughter, the woman I knew I was even if they refused to see it. I promised myself I would stand tall. I would not let their coldness define me. The path ahead was dark and uncertain. The wounds ran deeper than I imagined. The price of fighting for my place might be higher than I was ready to pay. Yet amidst the shadows, I held on to hope, fragile, flickering, but alive. Because sometimes the fiercest battles aren't fought with fists, but with the heart. And when the storm comes, you never know how strong you are until you have no choice but to fight. What happens next? It's a fight that will change everything. Stay with me. The nights were colder than I remembered, and the silence from my family felt like a heavy weight pressing down on my chest. But inside me, a tiny spark refused to die. I couldn't stay broken. If I wanted a life beyond pain and rejection, I had to build it myself. My new apartment was small and worn, cracked walls, a window barely letting in the sunlight. But it was mine, not the home I lost, but a beginning. Money was tighter than I imagined. The inheritance barely covered the basics. Every day was a struggle to find work, pay rent, keep going. Some mornings I woke feeling invisible, a ghost wandering a world that barely noticed me. But I forced myself up, out the door, into the cold. I took any job I could, waitressing late nights, cleaning offices, running errands. The world was unkind. People saw me as a nobody, a failure, but I refused to let their judgment define me. One afternoon, exhausted after a long shift, I collapsed on a cracked park bench. My hands shook. Doubts stormed my mind. Was I strong enough? Did I deserve this fight? Then she appeared. Mrs. Harper, a small woman with soft grey hair and eyes that seemed to see right through my pain. She sat beside me and asked, "Are you all right, dear?" For the first time in months, the dam broke. I poured out my heart, the betrayal, the loneliness, the fear. She listened without interruption, nodding with quiet understanding. When I finished, she took my hand and said, "You're stronger than you know. Sometimes life pushes us to the edge so we can discover who we really are." She invited me to volunteer at the community center, where she worked helping kids who struggled just like me. No pay, just a chance to belong. Slowly, I began to heal. The smiles of those children, their small victories, reminded me that pain was universal, but so was hope. Just as I found my footing, life struck again. A thick envelope arrived, stamped with a law firm's seal. Eric's lawyer was challenging my claim on the savings, trying to take away what little I had left. The letter hit me like a punch to the gut. That night, clutching it in trembling hands, despair threatened to return. But Mrs. Harper's words sparked a new flame, steady, unyielding. I refused to be beaten. I hired a lawyer. I read legal papers. I learned to fight for myself. The battle was exhausting, lonely. There were moments I wanted to give up. But with every setback, I grew stronger. The girl once locked out was becoming a woman who refused to be erased. This was no longer about money or property. It was about identity, dignity, the future I deserved. No matter what came next, I was ready. Because sometimes strength isn't measured until you have no choice but to fight. Months had passed since I began reclaiming my life, each small victory, a brick laid on my foundation of strength. I was no longer the invisible girl locked out of her family. I was rising stronger, fiercer, unbreakable. Then Eric came back, not with apologies, not with peace, just quietly, watching me from across the room at the community center, the place I'd made my sanctuary. When he finally approached, his eyes were sharp, voice colder than I expected. "Bianca," he said, "maybe it's time we talked, like family, before this drags on." I looked at him, really looked the brother who locked me out, treated me like I was nothing, expecting respect or forgiveness. Instead, I smiled. Not because I was soft, because I'd found power in calm. "Eric," I said slowly, "it's funny the lock's changed, but it's my life that's finally open." His eyes flickered, surprised. "You think locking me out meant I was defeated?" "No. It meant I had to build a door you'll never control." He bristled. "You don't understand what's at stake." "I understand plenty," I shot back, voice edged with steel. "I understand betrayal. I understand family turning their backs. And I understand I'm not here for crumbs. I'm here to claim my worth." Eric's mouth opened, but no words came. The man who once towered over me now looked small, facing a storm he never expected. Lisa stood silently nearby, eyes unreadable. I met her gaze, steady and unwavering, not with anger, but with the clear challenge. I'm still here. I didn't need to shout or throw accusations. Sometimes the most powerful response is quiet confidence, a calm sea before the tidal wave. "Family isn't about what we own," I said softly. "It's about what we're willing to forgive and how far we're willing to go to rebuild." Eric nodded slowly, the fight draining from him just enough to reveal something unspoken: regret, respect. As he turned away, I felt a strange mix of relief and triumph. This wasn't the end. It was a new beginning. Because sometimes the greatest victory isn't breaking someone down, it's rising above and showing them you're unbreakable. Years have passed since the day they locked me out, since the moment I was told I was lucky to get anything at all. But here I stand, not just back in the house, but standing taller than ever, radiating a strength they never saw coming. The community center that once saved me became my launchpad. Small victories turned into a career, a voice, a life rebuilt from ashes. Eric and Lisa invited me to a family gathering, not for forgiveness, not for closure, but to see if the forgotten sister was still broken, or if she'd become something unstoppable. Walking through the door, sunlight poured through the windows, casting long shadows behind me. I carried no anger, only quiet certainty. Their eyesons filled with doubt and disdain lingered on me, with surprise and something else, respect. I didn't need to speak loud words. My presence said it all. But just before I turned away to join the others, I held up a small worn key, the original key to that house, a symbol of the life I was born into, but had to fight for with every ounce of strength. With a calm smile, I said, "They changed the locks to keep me out. But this key, it wasn't just for the door, it's for every chapter I refused to let them write without me." The room fell silent. For once, it wasn't me who was locked out. It was them, locked out of the story of who I had become. To anyone watching, pushed aside, underestimated, made to feel invisible, know this: the truest power is rising on your own terms. Don't wait for permission. Don't ask for forgiveness. Claim your space. Build your life so brightly that no lock, no silence, no betrayal can ever keep you out. Thank you for being part of this journey. If my story moved you, gave you hope or strength, please like, share, and subscribe. Together, let's rewrite the stories others tried to close on us. Because sometimes, the final key isn't just to a door, it's to your freedom.